Hey guys, well this is it. We are finishing The Lightning Thief. So let's go ahead, let's get started. We left off, Percy had just been bit by a scorpion and was pretty sure he was going to die. Let's see if he lives. I woke with a drinking straw in my mouth. I was sipping something that tasted like liquid chocolate chip cookies. Nectar. I've opened my eyes. I was propped up in a bed in the sick room of the big house, my right hand bandaged like a club. Argus stood guard around the corner, in the corner. Annabeth sat next to me, holding my nectar glass and dabbing a washcloth on my forehead. Here we are again, I said. You idiot, Annabeth said, which is how I knew she was overjoyed to see me conscious. You were green and turning gray when we found you. If it weren't for Chiron's healing... No, Chiron's voice said. Percy's constitution deserves some of the credit. He was sitting near the foot of my bed in human form, which is why I hadn't noticed him yet. His lower half was magically compacted into the wheelchair, his upper half dressed in a coat and a tie. He smiled, but his face looked weary and pale, the way it did when he'd been up all night grading Latin papers. How are you feeling? He asked. Like my insides have been frozen and then microwaved. Apt, considering that was pit scorpion venom. Now, you must tell me, if you can, exactly what happened. Between sips of nectar, I told him the story. The room was quiet for a long time. I can't believe that Luke... Annabeth's voice faltered. Her expression turned angry and sad. Yes, I can believe it. May the gods curse him. He was never the same after his quest. This must be reported to Olympus, Chiron murmured. I will go at once. Luke is out there right now. I said, I have to go after him. Chiron shook his head. No, Percy, the gods won't even talk about Kronos. I snapped. Zeus declared the matter closed. Percy, I know this is hard, but you must not rush after vengeance. You aren't ready. I didn't like it, but part of me suspected that Chiron was right. One look at my hand, and I knew I wasn't going to be sword fighting anytime soon. Chiron, your prophecy from the oracle, it was about Kronos, wasn't it? Was I in it? And Annabeth? Chiron glanced nervously at the ceiling. Percy, it isn't my place. You've been ordered not to talk about it, haven't you? His eyes were sympathetic but sad. You will be a great hero, child. I will do my best to prepare you. But if I'm right about the path ahead of you... Thunder boomed overhead, rattling the windows. All right, Chiron said. Fine. He sighed in frustration. The gods have their reasons, Percy. Knowing too much of your future is never a good thing. We can't just sit back and do nothing. We will not sit back and do nothing. Will not sit back, Chiron promised. But you must be careful. Kronos wants you to come unraveled. He wants your life disrupted, your thoughts clouded with fear and anger. Do not give him what he wants. Train patiently. Your time will come. Assuming I live that long. Chiron put his hand on my ankle. You'll have to trust me, Percy. You will live. But first, you must decide your path for the coming year. I cannot tell you the right choice. I got the feeling that he had a very definite opinion, and it was taking all his willpower not to advise me. But you must decide whether to stay at Camp Half-Blood year-round or return to the mortal world for 7th grade and be a summer camper. Think on that. When I get back from Olympus, you must tell me your decision. I wanted to protest. I wanted to ask him more questions. But his expression told me there could be no more discussion. He had said as much as he could. I'll be back as soon as I can. Argus will watch over you, Chiron promised. He glanced at Annabeth. Oh, and my dear, whenever you're ready, they're here. Who's here? I asked. No one answered. Chiron rolled himself out of the room. I heard the wheels of his chair clunk carefully down the front steps, 2 at a time. Annabeth studied the ice in my drink. "What's wrong?" I asked her. Nothing." She set the glass on the table. "I just took your advice about something. You need anything?" "Yeah, help me up. I want to go outside." "Percy, that isn't a good idea." I slid my legs out of bed. Annabeth caught me before I could crumple to the floor. A wave of nausea rolled over me. Annabeth said, "I told you." "I'm fine," I insisted. I didn't want to lie in bed like an invalid while Luke was out there planning to destroy the Western world. I managed to step forward. Then another, still leaning heavily on Annabeth. Argus followed us outside, but he kept his distance. By the time we reached the porch, my face was beaded with sweat. My stomach had twisted into knots, but I had managed to make it all the way to the railing. It was dusk. The cabin looked completely deserted. The cabins were dark and the volleyball pit was silent. No canoes cut the surface of the lake. Beyond the woods and the strawberry fields, the Long Island Sound glittered in the last light of the sun. "What are you going to do?" Annabeth asked me. "I don't know." I told her I got the feeling Chiron wanted me to stay year-round to put in more individual training time, but I wasn't sure that that's what I wanted. I'd admitted I'd felt bad about leaving her alone, though, with only Clarice for company. Annabeth pursed her lips and then said quietly, "I'm going home for the year, Percy." I stared at her. "You mean to your dad's?" She pointed towards the crest of Half-Blood Hill. Next to Thalia's pine tree, at the very edge of the camp's magical boundaries, a family stood silhouetted. 2 little children, a woman, and a tall man with blonde hair. They seemed to be waiting. The man was holding a backpack that looked like the one Annabeth had gotten from Waterland in Denver. "I wrote him a letter when we got back, just like you suggested. I told him I was sorry. I'd come home for the school year if he still wanted me. He wrote back immediately. We decided we'll give it another try." That took guts. She pursed her lips. "You won't try anything stupid during the school year, will you? At least, not without sending me an Iris message?" I managed to smile. "I won't go looking for trouble. Usually I don't have to. When I get back next summer, we'll hunt down Luke. We'll ask for a quest, but if we don't get approval, we'll sneak off and do it anyways. Agreed?" "Sounds like a plan worthy of Athena." She held out her hand, and I shook it. "Take care, Seaweed Brain. Keep your eyes open." "You too, wise girl." I watched her walk up the hill and join her family. She gave her father an awkward hug and looked back at the valley one last time. She touched Thalia's pine tree and then allowed herself to be led over the crest and into the mortal world. For the first time at camp, I felt truly alone. I looked out at the Long Island Sound and I remembered my father saying, "The sea does not like to be restrained." I made my decision. I wondered if Poseidon were watching, if he would approve of my choice. "I'll be back next summer," I promised him. "I'll survive until then. After all, I am your son." I asked Argus to take me down to cabin 3 so I could pack my bags for home. And that is the end of The Lightning Thief. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did enjoy this book, I highly recommend that you look into the next book, which is called The Sea of Monsters. All right. So happy reading, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.